Greetings, this is your terror from beyond the cosmos, the Cosmic Squid, and today we're going to be taking a look at 5 more creepy Reddit posts from the subreddit Let's Not Meet. Each one of these stories is going to be credited to their original owner, so if you want to take a look, feel free to look it up on the subreddit, as the name of the poster and the name of the post will be on screen as I read the story. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. It helps out with the algorithm and will bring us one step closer to 100 subscribers. Anyway, without any further ado, let's begin. So we all know how this goes. Long-time reader, first-time poster. Now, to the people like me who are obsessed with these true scary stories, this might not sound too bad. But trust me, once you're in these situations, it's a whole new kind of scary. I want to start this by prefacing that I'm a 21-year-old female, and I come from the very beautiful but very sketchy place called South Africa. I live with my boyfriend and our 2 dogs. Our neighborhood is pretty safe for the most part, and we haven't had any problems so far. So we thought nothing of it when my boyfriend left to go visit his mom for a few days and I was left alone with the dogs. So yesterday was a nightmare since my eyes opened until I went to bed that night. The night before last, I went to bed and took my usual chronic medication and painkillers because of a terrible headache, and that night I happened to start taking melatonin because I have trouble sleeping. About 10 minutes later, I start feeling really ill. I talked to my aunt, who's a nurse, and turns out that mixing antidepressants, painkillers, and melatonin are a very bad combination that can make you very ill and in severe cases be deadly. Luckily for me, I didn't take that high of a dosage of pain meds and melatonin, so it didn't do much except make me feel a little ill. So I start feeling very lightheaded and headed to bed. I passed out, and I mean black out completely. I woke up that morning to the sound of a gate opening. I thought to myself that it was probably just my parents or brother, because they all have keys and wanted to check in, or they forgot to take something. A few minutes go by and I don't hear anything, so I assumed that it was our neighbor's gate that sounds exactly like ours, or that I was just completely imagined before I was so out of it last night, while later I hear footsteps walking on the dead leaves on the grass outside, and my dogs start freaking out. I think it might just be the stray cat of the neighborhood, or a donkey, or big bird. I go slowly open the door, as not to scare away whatever it is, but to show the dogs that everything is fine. As I come out of the room, I start hearing someone trying to open the back patio door, and I can vividly hear a male voice talking. My blood runs ice cold. I run to the kitchen to grab a knife and slowly head back outside. I look around the corner and I see a black man standing in our yard by the door, and I die internally. I'm not about to confront this man by myself. I rush back inside, lock myself in the room, and call my mom and dad, who at the time is at their place of work, 2 hours away from me. They freak out and phone my brother, who lives a few minutes away from us, but who was on his way to my parents. He turns his car around and floors it back to our place. He get here and storms into the yard. Turns out it was a new gardener my mom got. He got the times wrong of when he was supposed to come work, so no one knew he was coming. Our gate was also malfunctioning and opened by itself, so when he got there, he saw the gate and assumed it was left open for him to come in and work. And he was by the back door trying to get my attention so I could give him the keys to open the shed for the tools and trash bags. So if you think this is the end of the story, you'll be quite mistaken. So that whole ordeal left me severely freaked out the rest of the day. I spent some time in my room and hang out with the dogs while the gardener is working outside, and I realized at this point that my BF and I's anniversary, and sadly I would be spending it alone. I send him a cute message and we talk for a bit. I decide that I want to treat myself with some sushi and a milkshake. So I use a food delivery company to order the food. For privacy reasons, I won't be saying which one it was. I had to order the milkshake and sushi from 2 different places because the milkshake place doesn't do sushi and the sushi place doesn't do milkshakes. So I order the milkshake first, and in a few minutes it gets here and I get it and go back inside. I then order the sushi and wait for it to get here. A few minutes later, the app lets me know the driver is here, so I head outside to grab the food. Company works is they stop at the other side. How this company works is they stop on the other side of the road of where your house is. Then they check your phone order, check it off, hand you your food, and drive off. But this driver stops on the side of the road where our house is. He asked me to confirm my name and number. This has never happened, but I was hungry and tired to care, so I didn't think much of it. I walk up to the window and try to grab the food. He says no, that he wants to drive up to the driveway of the house. First red flag. So at this point, I'm a little uncomfortable, but I think nothing much of it. It could just be my mind working overtime because of this morning's events and the fact that I was alone. I again go grab the food, and the driver says no, he'll get out and give it to me. Now the red flags are screaming at me. He starts making very sexual comments about me and how I look and so on. I take a few steps back and tell him to just give me the food. I have something else to do. He walks a few steps into the yard and my dogs come running out. He asks if my dogs are aggressive and if they bite. I've been listening to Let's Not Meet and scary stories and true crime since I was 12. I know that I need to tell him that they're very aggressive and that they do bite. He takes a few steps back out of the yard and back into his car. I thought to myself, okay, he listened and he's scared. I'm in the clear. Yeah, no. He grabbed a little bottle from his seat and asked me if he can go fill it up with water for him. I take it and head inside the house. I know, stupid move on my end. Looking back, it was probably the mistake that led up to everything that happened after. I head into the house and fill it up so I can give it to him and he can leave. I come back outside when I'm done, and this MF is walking around my yard checking to see if I'm alone or not. I know this is the case because he makes more creepy comments, and one specifically about the fact that I'm alone. I try to make up a story about how I'm not alone and that my dad and BF are on their way, but he talks to our gardener, who is at this point working outside, and they start talking in a different language which I don't understand. And afterwards, he just gives me this creepy smile. So I'm like, oh, he knows I'm alone and for the next few days. At this point, I'm trying very, very hard to get out of this situation. He again starts to make creepy and sexual remarks, and then, I kid you not, this MF goes, "This is a really nice house. Must be full of expensive stuff." That is easily takeable if they left such a beautiful thing alone to take care of it. My jaw drops. I'm ready to start calling my dad, and no, it never crossed my mind to call the police because, in my experience, they're useless and rude, so that was never an option in my mind. He makes a few more remarks, then gets into his car and leaves. I'm really freaking out at this point, so I let my parents know, and I lock myself in the house and turn on the alarm. I keep checking the gate every now and then to make sure no one there and no one near the gate, but the same sketchy car keeps driving past the house really slowly. I try and get my mind out of calling one of my friends and playing online game with them. I get Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok notification about a new follower, and it was all from the same account. I don't think much of it because it happens a lot, and my social medias are all connected, so if you find one, you can find them all. I go check the notification and my heart stops beating for a second. It's the same creepy driver from this afternoon, and yes, at this point I did report him to the app, and they just said they'll look into it. I'm very uncomfortable at this point, and I tell my parents about it. They are really freaked out and don't want me to be alone. So my BF comes over, and my brother's GF says she'll also come spend a few days here. We call the security company and tell them everything. The guard gets here and takes my statement. He says creepy stuff and break-ins have been happening a lot lately, so they will keep a patrol car in the area for safety, and I need to keep the remote to the panic button with me at all times. So us three are chilling, and I'm getting them pizza for dinner, and we get the pizza and get inside. The outside alarm starts screaming, and we see flashlights outside. We run to go grab some weapons and hide inside. I press the panic button, and 6 minutes later a patrol car gets here. They check the yard, and they check the fence in the backyard has been tampered with. And it looks like they tried cutting it, but luckily there was no one or around the yard from what they see. We lock ourselves in the room and lock every door and window and put on the alarm again. We barely slept all night, and we would jump up and freak out at every little sound all night, but nothing further happened. I've always read these types of stories and thought they aren't so bad, and it doesn't happen a lot, and then it happened to me, and now I can tell you it's the scariest ever, and being in that situation is a lot worse than just reading about it or hearing about it. So, to the creepy delivery driver who made me feel very uncomfortable, stalked me, then tried breaking into my house, let's not meet again. Okay, so update for y'all. I realized something and I'm severely freaked out. I think the creepy delivery guy might be a full stalker. So I made 3 orders that day from the grocery store and the other 2 from the previously mentioned delivery app. When I placed the orders that day, my location was malfunctioning and I didn't even notice it. So the first delivery guy calls and says he's at the gate, so I go outside and he's not there, so I redirect him to my actual location. Same thing happens with the delivery guy who brought me the milkshake. I thought it was really weird, but I still didn't connect the dots. But then, creepy delivery guy shows up at my exact location, and I obviously didn't see anything wrong yet, and thought my location fixed itself. So I go through my emails to see if the report I made off the guy has been answered, and when I see the email about yesterday's deliveries, I go in and my blood turns ice cold. The sushi delivery was marked with the wrong address. 3 neighborhoods away from my actual location. And this MF knew my real location. And my name and number off my heart. But that's not information that is shared with them. So is this weird, or am I being paranoid? I'm currently a 21-year-old female. I have lived alone since I was 18. When I was around 18 or 19, I would often take walks to the park that wasn't too far away from my apartment complex. I had a boyfriend, ex-boyfriend now at the time, who was a couple of months older than me, but unfortunately was at work when I decided to go out for my walk. I should mention that there was a bus stop at the left end of my street that wasn't too far from the park. I remember stopping at the end of the block, waiting for the cars to let me pass. Then for some reason I looked over at the bus stop and saw a man staring me down. After noticing this, I really didn't care if the cars would let me pass or not, so I just walked into the road. I did almost get hit, but I just wanted to be far away from that guy. There was a high school that was probably 5 or 10 minutes away from the park. I remember looking back at the school because it was a school I was currently attending at the time, and then I saw that the man who was staring me down from the bus stop was following me. I started slightly panicking. I think I even texted my boyfriend about how I'm pretty sure I was being followed. I kept looking back behind me to make sure there was a good sizable distance between him and I. I knew that if I slowed my pace, something bad was going to happen. Eventually, I got to the park and started getting really anxious. My reasons being, 1, the park entrance was down a hill and split into 2 separate paths that you couldn't see into due to the trees simply being in the way. 2, knowing that nobody would have been able to see what could have happened to me if I chose to go down one of 2 paths. 3, I was off from work and school that day, and it was 2 p.m., which typically meant nobody was in the park around that time. As I started walking down the winded hill, I saw a woman with 2 kids and a dog. I remember the instant relief, furthermore the safety I felt when seeing her. I even picked up my pace to get to her quicker because I was scared out of my mind. I remember the exact conversation I had with her to this day. "Hi, I know this may seem weird, but I live down the hill, and while I was crossing the intersection where the bus stop was at, I noticed him staring at me, then started following me. Can you act like you know me if this man comes down here?" Before she could even reply, I tilted my head up to the hill to the man who was about to come down the hill. When I did that, I think she slightly panicked and started walking away. She saw the seriousness of the situation and gathered her kids up into the stroller. I don't know what made him decide to do this next, but as she was trying to get things packed up, he, at some point, turned back around and was now coming down the hill. I told her that he was coming down, and the woman moved quicker than ever to get things packed up, and I even started helping. As he walked up to us, he immediately started trying to ask me questions. I can't remember what he said, but I remember the woman was pretty much answering for me. I guess he had tried to ask if we knew each other, which of course she lied, telling him that she did know me, and I was coming down to walk back with her. I backed her up with this claim. I just wanted the guy to leave me, and now her alone. He asked a couple of more questions, and eventually we excused ourselves and started our way back up the hill. I remember the woman I had met walked with me all the way down to the intersection where the bus stop was across from. She was clearly very scared for me due to the fact that the guy had eventually started following me and her back. I felt so bad for dragging her into the situation. I didn't know if he would try to follow me all the way home if we broke off there, or that if he would decide to aim new focus onto the woman who was simply at the park playing with the kid she was babysitting. Before he can get too close to us, I walked over to some construction workers whom were now working on the high school side. I explained the whole situation to them and told them about how we thought it was weird how the man who was initially just following me was now following me and the lady. I pleaded them to call the cops if he went past the bus stop or started following the lady. The construction workers happily agreed. Then the lady and I went our own ways. I don't know what happened to that man. I don't know if he was arrested or not. However, an hour later, my ex-boyfriend had gotten home from work. We went out to go run errands, and as we were driving up the hill, there were 4 police cars parked around the intersection, where I told the construction workers to call the police if the man was still trying to follow me. I'm just glad the police were called, especially with a high school being so close. I couldn't forgive myself if he had tried to follow some poor high school kid just walking home. So, to the man who was wearing a red and blue puffer jacket, who decided to follow me to a place I would go that I considered peaceful, content, and safe, thank you for teaching me to be more aware of people. But let's not meet ever again. This happened 5 years ago when I, 20 female, was 15. My great aunt's health at the time was failing and she could no longer take care of herself, so my family decided that she would be better off at a nursery home. Due to her being an extreme hoarder, I don't want to on my family in any way, but this is important for the story. Her house sat abandoned. My father and I were the only ones that checked up on the house from time to time. It started off small when we noticed minor stuff being moved around or drawers being looked through. Around that time, we didn't think much of it since another person close to my great aunt also had a key to the house, and we thought maybe he wanted to get some of his stuff since he used to live there for some time. After a while, probably a month later, things got stranger. We used to roam the house more to rescue some things in it and just to look through everything. Maybe after a week of doing so and feeling watched every time we were there, more stuff was moved around and placed so that we noticed it immediately. Like stuffed animals that used to sit on a shelf, now neatly sitting above one another on the staircase step by step, dirty footprints and more drawers ripped open and stuff inside spilled everywhere. We got very suspicious of the situation and investigated more. We had late night drives passing the house just to check to see if we ever caught a flashlight or any sign of someone being inside the house every night. At that time, I started telling my friends about the situation, and as stupid kids we were back then, we thought it would be a good adventure for us to just stay there for a night and playing security with the mission to finally catch this person that seemed almost like a ghost to us. Another information that's important is that there was actually no way inside the house, no window open, all doors locked, and we and this other guy, we were the only ones with the key. Anyways, back to the day we stayed there. Me and 3 of my friends just settled into the kitchen, not noticing anything out of the ordinary yet, except for the normal stuff that had been going on. So we assumed that they weren't around yet. We ordered pizza and just talked for a while, just waiting for something to happen. After a while, we decided that we would go for a walk with my 2 dogs that I had with me. I made sure to definitely close and lock the door behind me. When we returned after 15 minutes, a single lamp on the last corner of the living room was turned on. Keep in mind, the whole living room was filled with trash, so they had to climb over everything just to turn this lamp on. And that's when we knew the person had been in the house now. We decided to go into the kitchen and keep a low profile just to see what would happen after a while. One of my friends, let's just call her Jane, chickened out and wanted to go home. So we let her, and just 5 minutes after Jane closed the front door behind her, we heard someone walking down the wooden stairs, obviously thinking we had all left the house. We were so caught up in listening to the creaking of the steps that we realized that what was actually happening when one of the dogs started barking and the footsteps immediately stopped. There was only one wall separating us from whoever just came down the stairs, and when we finally realized that, we all got so scared and ran out of the house as fast as possible. There was a door separating the staircase from the hallway that we luckily locked as soon as we came back from the walk. So we probably locked them up there. When we finally all sat outside the house, we just decided that it was probably the best if we just called the police and let them handle the situation. As we waited, basically all holding our breaths and the aftershock of the situation, we suddenly heard someone, a male voice, talking quietly, probably on the phone. That's when we noticed the window was slightly open on the second story of the house, and he must have opened it at some point because, like I said, no windows were ever open. We couldn't hardly really make anything out of what was being said, only something along the lines of "been caught." After 30 minutes of sitting there, the police finally arrived and went inside. They looked through everything but found nothing. He for sure had enough time to simply hide somewhere. There was a room completely filled with cardboard boxes that reached under the roof. That's when things got extreme. It was like he was playing mind games with us. He left notes everywhere in the house for us to find with weird drawn smiley faces and flowers saying, "Catch me." Placing his alarm thing under the front door that would go off anytime someone entered the living room. So anytime someone entered letting him know that someone was there, trashing the bedroom so it was beyond recognition, destroying the furniture into the toilet and placing a flower on top of this, and all this without ever being caught once. Our checkups became more frequently, turning from once a day to every hour, but nothing. We eventually decided to let things cool down a little and ignore the problem for a while. At one point, he would leave an unlivable house drowning in cat pee and trash. Right? Nope. Wrong. Probably 4 months after we didn't put much interest into him or the house, one of my friends said that he saw some figure standing at the window behind the curtain, just staring outside, and we were just like, great, here we go again. And suddenly, the interest was back. One day, we all decided to turn up at the house. There were 7 of us, and we were ready to search that dang house from head to toe, just finding the place that guy was hiding and leaving and entering the house. Still, everything was locked. When we first got back inside, there was leftover and rotten food in the kitchen, and a surprise for us in the living room where on a cardboard box, just like some fucking dog. We decided to separate 4 of us. Went inside the living room. One of my friends stayed outside, and a friend, let's call him Carl, and I went into the stable area of the house because that part had a hole in the wall that connected the place the hay was kept to the attic, but we were never able to figure out where exactly the hole in the attic was. Carl was throwing off little stones in the hole that seemed to be covered with something like cardboard from the other side, just so our friends would be able to hear the sound from inside and find the entrance. All of a sudden, it knocked back and we actually saw the cardboard bending from something hitting on it. And I yelled down to my friends outside if they finally were able to find that damn entrance. And all I got back from her was, "No, everyone's downstairs." Just kind of shocked, Carl and I quickly made our way out of the stable and to the others, saying if we go to the attic now, we got him, since there would be no way he could escape that quickly and that he would have had to pass us on the stairs. We all ran up the stairs again, but nothing, just nothing at all. After this, we decided that we would give up and not go there again. We also realized that it might be dangerous if he seriously did anything to us, except for creeping us out. But when we were wondering what would we do if we seriously caught him and stood in front of him, our parents were also not really happy about us doing any of this again. So months passed without anything, only sometimes driving by and seeing faint light inside until the house finally put out on market to be sold. Today, it had been completely emptied out and renovated. So to the creep living in a completely rancid house for almost a year, let's not meet. So my husband needed a pacemaker replacement. Due to our insurance, we had an option of driving to OKC for the 20-minute procedure, and it would be completely cost-free. We're both in our mid-40s, so we drive the 5 hours to do it. On the way back, he decides his taste in music is and no longer wanted to listen to mine. So, we pulled off at the next exit. Turned out to be the Fancy Dance Casino exit for anyone familiar with the area. I pulled to the end of the exit and as far over as I could. It had a very wide shoulder and a long ramp. I wanted to make sure we were seen and not taken out by anyone speeding through. We both hopped out in case he needed to lift something, 10-pound limit, and grabbed his earbuds. No harm, no foul. I got back into the driver's seat and looked in my mirror to see a car pull up behind us. So close we couldn't even see their headlights. I mention it. Husband looks and sees two men getting out, both wearing hoodies over their faces in 70+ degree weather. And they were bent down behind the door. It looked like they were getting weapons ready. That's when I floored him. Did a small circle around the roads and got back on the highway less than 5 minutes later. The car was long gone. We ended up calling and making a report to Highway Patrol, but we didn't see their faces and we got the hell out of there before anything could happen. So, to the two randos that we're pretty sure were going to rob us, let's not meet. When I graduated college, I was about 24 years old. I really wanted to get on my own and try living alone. Luckily for me, my grandma had asked to be moved into an assisted living center about a year prior. I had asked my parents if I could live there. They talked it over with my grandma and she agreed to it. Would be nice having someone in there after a year of sitting empty. This was kind of an up-and-coming area, but still had its rough spots. I was so excited until I got there to do a walkthrough to see how I was going to set up my things. The house was a shotgun-style home with a cellar that could only be accessed from the outside. While I was walking through the house, I swore I was hearing noises. Finally, I realized they were coming from the basement. Called the police, and they came out and escorted 6 people from the cellar. They were squatters that had been living there. After they left, I went down to find all kinds of stuff. The cops took all the drugs and anything else illegal. It looked like someone had spray painted the walls all over. It was just a concrete cellar where the water heater and HVAC was, so I wouldn't have really cared, except it seemed kind of satanic. I don't know anything about this stuff, but there was a couple of pentagrams and a chalk circle on the floor. Cops didn't really have anything to say about it. They didn't know either. I poured some water on the floor to wash away the circle, but the walls I just left as is. Fast forward a few months of me living there and had forgotten all about it. I started dating my future wife, and she was over. We were getting ready for bed and the bathroom, brushing our teeth. A knock came from the back door. I ignored it, but it came again. It was 1 a.m. and this was my back door. Someone had to come into my backyard by opening the fence gate. I grabbed my and went to the door, keeping it out of view. Some guy was standing on the porch. I opened the interior wooden door, but kept the outside storm door shut and locked. I asked what he was here for since it was so late. All he said was, "Is Christina here?" I told him he had the wrong house, and all he said was, "Oh, so do you want me to leave?" I told him he better leave and not to come back. He just stood there, staring at me. I was getting very nervous at this point and shut the door. He walked down the steps and just stood in my backyard staring at the house. Then he tried to open up the cellar doors. I had them padlocked and he gave up. I opened the back window and told him to get out of here before the cops show up or he gets shot, or both. Again, he just stared, but then finally left. I didn't sleep that night. A couple of months later, my girlfriend told me that guy was back, just standing in my backyard staring at the house. This time, it was in broad daylight. I called the cops this time. He tried the cellar doors again, but left before they show up. The next day, I went down to the cellar to see maybe if there had been something left behind that he was trying to get, but found nothing. It was just a damp, disgusting cellar with dirt floor. I have no idea what he wanted in there. I highly doubt the satanic stuff had anything to do with it. It just made this creepier. I unfortunately had to move out sometime later, as I could no longer afford it. Never saw the guy again. This has been your terror from beyond the cosmos, the cosmic squid. Thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, as it does help